it all comes back to intentionality.
Yeah.
And I always talk about that, but it's reverse engineering what do you really want in life? Because the reality is most people don't know what they really want in life. I learned this when I was doing one-on-one performance interviews with my sales reps across the country.
Yeah.
And I'd sit down for 20 minutes with my employees and be like, hey, why are you here? What's your holy cause? What's your purpose? What are your goals? What do you really want out of this long term? And everybody has a knee-jerk reaction like, hey, I want to get a house. I want to pay for a wedding. I want to pay for student loan. I want a sports car. But you dive into it deeper and it gets fuzzy really, really quick, man. And and very few people know what they really are fighting for in life.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. I'm so excited to be introducing this next guest because this dude is the definition of a badass entrepreneur who has proved it in so many different areas. So my guest today has over 17 years of experience, had a 17-year career, with one of the nation's largest smart home security companies, Vivint Smart Home. He served 8 years as a regional vice president of sales, followed by 3 years with sister company Vivint Solar, where he's led over 100 sales teams. Any of you who know how difficult that is, you have to be some dude to manage and lead that many sales teams, because sales is a different kind of monster, right? And throughout this time period, he built up the contribution to help this company to go public with a multi-billion-dollar valuation. My guest now consults several small to medium-sized high-growth businesses across the country. He's created his unique Lifestyle by Design program focused on living life fully with freedom and purpose, along with his wife and 4 young children. My guest recently launched the Allred Family Foundation, which I kind of gave away your name already, but really recently launched that foundation, and now has over 18 years of experience in the real estate game, which is probably, if you know this guy, you're probably seeing more and more of him due to the real estate, because at the age of 30, he's committed to building his portfolio with over 1,000 rental doors by the age of 40. So this dude has now launched something called Axia Partner Funds in real estate, where they're doing tens of millions of dollars with real estate. They're absolutely crushing the game. Dave Allred, thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
I'm excited to have you on, dude. Because funny, you and me met not actually earlier this year, right, through our group of friends. And I was talking to you about, like a bunch of stuff. We were just sitting down at dinner. You immediately told me about what you had going on in real estate. And I was like, dude, I'm in, bro. So just so you know, I've heard about you before I met you, and I heard about how much you were killing it in the real estate game. But dude, that much time in Vivint and leading sales teams, and then making the transition to being this big of a killer in the real estate game. You're developing your name in the real estate market as one of the top guys to be, diving in with in regards to investing in real estate, whether it's multifamily or whatever it is. Dude, what's your story, man? Like, that's what I really want to understand here is like, how'd you become this dude? Because you don't have that kind of success helping Vivint become a multi-billion-dollar company. You're one of the top dogs of Vivint, now one of the top dogs of real estate. How'd you become this dude? Like, what happened?
Well,
it's a loaded question, isn't it?
That's a big question for sure. With Vivint, it was supposed to be 4 months going out into Chicago for a 4-month summer.
Right.
And, eventually turned into a 17-year career, and super grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But, kind of backing up, I'm from here in Utah, a really small town called Manti. It's about 2,000 population, really small, right?
Next to Narnia.
There you go. And, grew up in a family that was definitely a very low income, blue collar, family. My dad worked 2 jobs, didn't really, see him around a ton. And I just remember growing up and always, wanting a lot in my own life and being very goal focused. And I can't pinpoint exactly, at what point in my life or, what made me set these high expectations for myself. But I just knew I was willing to do whatever it took in my life to be able to really up level and create a great quality life for my family and for me personally.
Right.
And, I realized a long time ago, though, at my core, I'm really motivated by freedom. And I just wanted to have a ton of freedom in my personal life to be able to live life on my own terms. And so a lot of what I've done in my life and my approach has really been focused around how to create additional freedom and not just financial freedom, but, time freedom and freedom to be doing what I want to be doing, what I'm passionate about in my own life, and freedom to be doing it with people I want to be doing it with. Because in my opinion, who you do business with is who you do life with naturally, right? There's proximity, you spend time together, and you end up, having a lot of shared values and experiences, and you create those relationships and those memories around business.
Good or bad.
You got it.
Yeah.
And so, grew up in that environment, and then I was going to Snow College, and again, I knew I wanted a lot in my life. I didn't know how I was going to do that. I wanted to be a professional firefighter was what I thought I wanted to do. And I was an international businessman, and but they had a recruiting booth set up with Krispy Kreme donuts on it, and at Snow College, I'm a hungry college kid. I walk up, grab a donut, and then they tell me there's going to be a recruiting meeting that night at a pizza place called Fat Jack's Pizza. And so I'm like, nice, I'm winning, man. I got donut.
Isn't that one of the biggest places down there in Ephraim area?
It's the place.
That's the place where they go hang out. Now there's Walmart.
and so I went to that pizza meeting or that recruiting meeting, and next thing you know, I'm heading out to Chicago to go knock for the summertime, and I knew it was going to be hard, and there's definitely nothing sexy about door sales or glamorous about it, but I knew it was going to be hard. But I realized that I'd learn a lot from that, and I was going to learn about sales, and I've always kind of embraced the mindset of always being uncomfortable, and that the ability to be uncomfortable or to be comfortable being uncomfortable is so valuable. And so I knew that I'd be uncomfortable and it was going to be difficult and hard, but I also knew I'd learn a lot from that experience. I was relatively young, and so I jumped out there. And
how old were you when you started?
I was 21 years old.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And, I went out and Jeremiah, it was hands down the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
Oh,
man.
I get you.
First week I sold one account, ended up being a sub 600 credit score. And so I shouldn't have sold in the first place. And so they came back and actually ripped out the alarm system the next week, and then charged me back the $200 commission that I made. Right. So that was my first entire week. And I came from, Manti, going into the highest crime area of Chicago. And so it's kind of like a fish out of water, trying to figure out what to do. First month, really rough. Even about halfway through the summertime, I was still really struggling, way behind where I wanted to be. I was thinking about quitting every day, really multiple times every day. And then one of the regional managers came out and he had a conversation with our team. And by the way, about 80% of our team had already quit by that point. And he talked about how anybody that sold 100 accounts could become a sales manager the next year and actually recruit a team and go and build something. And it really clicked for me right there. I was like, okay, what? This could become something where it's a career. I'm creating value for other people. And it's a lot bigger than just me, going out and trying to make some money for me personally. And so that was really inspirational for me. And, it really kind of turned my summer around. I was able to finish really strong with 121 accounts, made $31,000, which for me at that point in my life was a game changer. Like that was more than my parents had made. It's more than I ever really even probably expected to make out there. And so, it was enough to get me to come back the next year as a sales manager. And we had the number one first year team, and then the next year a top team, and then a regional manager, then a VP of sales for 8 years. Loved it. Managed 121 sales teams across the country in 42 different states. And then sister company, Vivint Solar, was doing really well. And so had the opportunity to go out and help run the California market for Vivint Solar. Moved my family out there for 2.5 years. And ran a few 8 teams up there in California and loved the experience. But, the entire time, so it's going to be a 4-month, summer sales program turning into 17 years. And super grateful, man. Just not just the, the money, but the soft skills you learn from doing that job, communication, interpersonal, communication, psychology, how to take that level of rejection and failure on a daily basis, mindset, discipline, leadership, salesmanship, which I think is the most valuable skill set is salesmanship. I know, that with what you're doing in your business as well, but if you can couple salesmanship with leadership, that to me is the most dynamic, most powerful, or most valuable 2 skills you can have to create real value in the markets. Because in my opinion, money just follows value, right? And so the more value you can create in the market, then the more valuable you are. And it's just anyway, very grateful for the opportunity I've learned, sales and leadership earlier in my career.
Well, let me ask you something, because in door-to-door. So I did door-to-door for 2 years, pest control.
I didn't know
right? You didn't know that? So I love, well, actually, let me take that back. I do not love door-to-door.
I was going to say, man, I've heard two people my entire career literally say, I love door-to-door sales.
I think you and me both agree on this. I love what I learned about myself in door-to-door, right? Because obviously, you know, growing up LDS, served a mission, learned a lot about myself there, went out and did door-to-door. The amount of, and the thing about door-to-door, the amount of rejection you experience in such a short time frame is probably, to me, what shows you the most about yourself, because you're going to knock 100 plus doors a day and you might sell 1, maybe 3. If you're really good, especially in pest control, you'll sell 10, right? But that means you have 90 plus rejections every single day for the summer, however long you do it, right? And the number one thing that I think people, like, if anyone who does door to door can walk away with, is you learn how to push through the no's and the objection. You kind of have to. If you got soft skin, you ain't going to make it. You'll go home early, which a lot of people do because you're forced to experience rejection at a high level, right?
100%. I would say mental fortitude.
Yes.
Right? Just that tenacity and that ability to just keep going and to really master your emotions is so valuable, man. And nothing will teach you better than going out and knocking doors.
Yeah.
In fact, all of my children, I want them, if they don't need the money, I want them to be doing at least 1 year of door-to-door sales.
Yeah.
I think those skill sets are so valuable, man, especially in today's market, because I think nowadays everybody wants delayed gratification.
Yeah.
They want instant gratification.
Yes.
They want to see it right now.
Yeah.
And what I learned from, my first year especially was, is the law of the harvest or delayed gratification, where you've got to put that work in now, plant those seeds, and keep watering it, and fertilizing it, and tolling, putting all that work into it, and then eventually that reward comes.
Yes, amen.
But it's so valuable, man. And nowadays, I feel like that's it's almost a lost art. There's a lost.
Oh my gosh,
you know what I'm saying,
dude? I say that all the time. The ability to, like, the message and the ability and the skill set to push through pain is a lost art. I've literally said that on this podcast multiple times. It's a lost skill sets, a lost art. It's a lost lesson. Why that's not being taught more and more. And you know what? Honestly, I come from a football background as well. I was at BYU for a couple of years at quarterback. I grew up playing football my entire life. My dad played football at BYU. My grandpa coached at BYU for 25 years. I grew up in a football background. And the number one thing that in football you have to learn, or most sports, is you better push through pain. You're going to experience pain. You're going to, tweak your knee or your ankle, or you're going to get hit. You're going to get rocked. Something's going to happen. You're going to experience pain, and it's not a reason to stop. But I think in football today, I keep seeing more and more just this tap thing on the head. Like, I'm seeing more and more, people just saying tapping on the helmet, like, oh, give me a break. I'm like, where was it? Like, if you go back and look 20 years ago, like there's this mental fortitude of pushing through pain, of actually pushing yourself to do something. Kobe Bryant, was one of the people, he had his finger dislocated. And now today you're taking 3 games off, or maybe 3 weeks, whatever it is. He went over to the side, had him pop it back in. He went back in the fucking game. He tore his Achilles and he's back in the game just to shoot those last free throws. Like, that's the lost art that I feel like we need to bring back into, the message for our generation, for the kids, everything. Push through pain. Life is pain. There's nothing about life that is not painful. Growth is pain. That is literally the definition of growth, is you will experience pain. That's why we call it growing pains. Your bones are going to hurt as kids, right? So you better learn to push through pain, whether it's in sales, business, anything. I love that you said, because when you push through pain, that's the key. The 1% is the 1% because they do what the 99% are not willing to do, meaning they push through a lot more pain than they will. Right?
100%. And people think I'm crazy when I say this, man, but I've actually always intentionally tried to be on the fringe of my comfort zone, because that's where personal development comes from. It's when you're a little bit uncomfortable, you're a little bit nervous, you're scared, you're on the fringe of your comfort zone. Yes. And so, I intentionally am always trying to take on something that's difficult. It's hard. Yeah. It scares me. It pushes me. In fact, like, as an example, there's only a few things that really scare me in my life right now. Because my approach has always been like, hey, if it scares you, it probably means you should just do it. Yes. Right. So if something scares you.
Yes. Amen.
It means, usually it means you should do it.
Yeah.
And so, there's very few things in my life that I'm fearful of.
Yeah.
One of them is I've got these 3 beautiful daughters, and it's like the idea of them dating.
Oh.
Like I don't know how to fix that one right now. I'm just have to go through that one, but that still worries me. Public speaking, and so I've committed. I'm going to do stand-up comedy this year.
Did you?
I'm going to.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just because that's like, to me, that's like the purest form of communication.
Yeah.
And really want to get over that fear.
Yeah.
And the other one is open water swimming and competitive open water swimming. I've done a few events with Iron Cowboy. Speaking of doing hard things, Iron Cowboy, a good friend of mine, went and ran one of the Ironmans with him on his 97th one of his 100 in a row, right?
But
that guy's a perfect example of what we're talking about here, just really pushing the limits and testing your fortitude. David Goggins talks about how when we think we're maxed out 100, like we're at our limit, really we're about 40%.
Yeah.
Right. And the way to improve that is to keep brushing up against that, what you think mentally is your limit, and then you expand from that. And so anyway, personally, I always try to stay uncomfortable. And, with my kids, it's something I'm intentionally trying to do right now because, I worry. I'm actually really grateful that I grew up in a very low income home where we had to work really, really hard, got the work ethic from that, the humility from that, really the gratitude now to have the contrast. I've seen that I've worked so hard to put myself in a better position with my family.
Yeah.
And then to contrast that to what it was beforehand, right?
Yeah.
But one of the big concerns then is, okay, well, with my kids, how am I to make sure that they have, that they embrace hard things and that they get those same values and that work ethic, right? So something we're still working through.
Yeah.
If we had more time, we could do a deep dive.
Dude, I'd love to, because I don't know if you know anything about my story. One of the things that changed my life was my dad forced me to do hard shit. And if you meet my dad, like he doesn't come across, he's not like, like this hard ass guy, but to me, like growing up, he was. But I loved him but I loved him for it. And like the thing that he forced me to do, say baseball, right? If he ever saw me getting scared of the baseball when I was up to bat, he would literally take me out the next day, throw pitches at me as hard as he could. And when I'm 10 years old and a grown man's throwing full, fastballs, I'm scared shitless. And sometimes he'd actually bean me. Like, and it was, listen to this. They'd be like, that's child abuse. No, it's not child abuse. I'm fine. I got a bruise. I'm fine. But he taught me to not be afraid. He taught me not to be afraid. He literally, there was moments in my life where if I was scared of getting hit, he would force me to go hit people. Like in football or whatever it was, forcing me to experience pain. Right. And it's because of that, I believe I'm where I'm at today and where I keep going, because I'm constantly thinking back the message. If you're afraid of it, you should lean into it, not run back.
What's the expression? Right? Tough times create tough men.
Yes.
Good times create soft men.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. You're trying to do that with your kids. It sounds like that's something you're doing is that what you're doing with the Family Foundation or?
Family Foundation is, so all my kids are employees.
Okay.
So I pay them, a salary for my real estate, my personal real estate business.
And then, taxes.
Yeah. Tax wise, you can pay them up to, I'm not CPA, can't give tax advice, but up to $12,500 a year.
Yeah, right.
And that they don't have to pay taxes on that. And then it's a deduction for the company as a wage.
Yeah.
Really awesome way to be able to teach the kids not just work ethic, but also, how to manage finances and money as well. And so, pay them whatever that salary is. And then, for my kids, 10% of their capital goes into giving back. 30% is discretionary. They can spend on whatever they want to. And then 60% goes into education and investing in real estate.
Nice.
And so it's all structured that way.
I love that.
Family Foundation is something we came up with to help teach the kids to give back. And so each one of my kids are on the board of directors. And they each got to choose their own foundation or their own charitable cause, right?
Yeah.
And their ages 7, 10, 12, and 15. But it's awesome because they get to own that. Like they chose what they want to support, right? For me, my dad has Parkinson's, so I chose to support Parkinson's Foundation. But, my daughter loves Operation Underground Railroad. So she supports that. Yeah. In fact, she did a podcast with Tim a while back, right?
Yeah.
And then, my son loves the Wounded Warrior Project, so he's supporting that. But it's a really fun way to teach them how to give back, but then to really own it because they're on the board of directors and they got to choose the actual charity.
That's really cool. I think that's pretty sweet. Anyone listening to that, DM Dave Allred for more advice on that, because that's something I'd love to do with my kids. I'll have to pick your brain on that some more because that's genius.
Another one is what's fun is teaching your children about real estate is exactly right. So my parents never ever talked about investing, real estate, and business.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's probably because they didn't really know a lot on the topic, maybe, right? True. I'm sure they did their very best, but that wasn't something we ever talked about. But now, like with my kids, I'm really trying to flip the script there. Mm-hmm. And even, if my 7-year-old walked in right now and I said, hey, what's the best type of income? she's going to say passive income. Like all my kids know this. We talk about it all the time. Instead of having a an educational, a 529 plan for the kids, the goal is to have them each own, a fourplex, have their own real estate that pays through passive income to pay for their college tuition and everything else. And so, it's been really fun to be able to teach the kids how this all works. Another quick example on that is like my daughter, she's turning 16 here, and she really wanted a Tesla Model 3. And to me, I'm like, there's no way that's going to make sense. That's irresponsible to get that nice of a car for your first vehicle. But then the more I thought about it, okay, this is a learning opportunity to teach my kids about money and how to make money work for you. And so that, it came down to, okay, well, we'll split the cost with you, whatever you want to put into your vehicle, we'll split the cost with you. And then, I'm basically the lender on that one. So let's say her payment's $300 a month, and it's okay. Cool. That's still too much for a 15, 16-year-old to have to burden herself with for the next 5 years on a car loan. So how can we create enough passive income to make the car payment for you? And that led to the last 2 months putting together a game plan where, she's going to come in on one of my duplexes and own, she's been working for 2 years now at a job. And she bought some cryptocurrency, some Bitcoin, Ethereum. That's done really well. Yeah. So now she has enough to actually do a substantial investment into real estate. Wow. And that will actually pay for that car payment, right? And that's what I want to teach my kids is, hey, you can actually have whatever you want in life. But, the smart way of approaching that is, how can I create enough passive income through an investment to pay for those kind of more luxury items that you want in your life?
Dude, your kids are getting set, man. That's what it should be.
Still figuring it out, man. For the record, like parenting, that's one, like in business, I feel like I can, I'm a professional problem solver. I do executive consulting for different businesses, and and I'm really good at solving problems. Dude, parenting is a whole other world. There's no book on that.
No. There's been people who've tried, but there's no book, and there never will be, except for the Bible and the Book of Mormon. But dude, let me pivot to something, because when you're talking about this, you say the word freedom a lot, right? Now, from the door-to-door background, at least from my experience, everyone who does door-to-door usually does it because of the freedom. Because the freedom that if you go out for 4 months, you can make a full-time salary in 4 months and have a lot of freedom for the rest of the year. So you sacrifice 4 months where you don't have a whole lot of freedom. You go 9 to 9 pretty much every damn day, right? It's hard, but then it creates freedom for the rest of life. I know a lot of people who do door-to-door because of that, but then also creates enough income. If they're good, if they stick with it long enough, they can get good enough where they can create enough income to then start throwing it into investments. At least if they're guided the right way, which I hope they are. And that's something I want to do is help guide people into that, because I know a lot of people who can make a lot of money, spend on the wrong shit. Now you're in the exact same fucking hole, right? Yeah. But so you're talking freedom a lot. Then you also throw out the words passive income. To me, every time I hear passive income, the number one word that comes to mind is freedom. That is what passive income is, right? And I know we like to say is, so you can sit on your couch and just get paid. Nah, that's fine. But really what it is freedom. Freedom to do what you want, when you want, how you want. Passive income is freedom. You say freedom a lot in this. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because your business and really what you've done your entire career was based around creating freedom. Am I wrong?
100%. Absolutely. And so what I saw was in door sales was, as individuals' income went up and they made more and more money, usually the majority of people would then their cost of living would go up proportionately. Right. And so they're buying new trucks, new snowmobiles, new rims, depreciating assets. Yeah. And it actually put guys in a worse position because they get used to making 100 or 200 grand, $500,000, whatever. And their cost of living goes up, congruent with that. Yeah. And so they actually don't get ahead. They're actually in a worse position because now their cost of living is so high, and their expectation level, right? Yeah. And so, luckily, and part of it comes probably from my upbringing, with not having money. And so when I had some money, it was very, I kind of, protected it. Sure. Right. But, I realized I wanted to have that passive income. And so I went and talked to my CPA after my second year, made like 156 grand that year. And I was like, hey, what should I do with this? Like, I have no idea what's a responsible way to approach this. And he said all of his wealthy clients are invested in businesses or real estate. And I was like, cool, real estate. I've heard about it. It sounds fun. Let me figure that out. Yep. And I just took it upon myself to figure out, and started, podcasts, books, a mentor, hired a real estate coach, but really just proximity around other guys that were doing really well with this. Yeah. My mentor, Todd Peterson at Vivint, he always talked about whenever you go into a new area, you really want to identify the top 1% to 2% of the people in that space, and then try to get as much proximity as you can to them, because they're going to know not just the best practices, but also their network and their relationships can actually exponentially add value for you, right?
Yeah.
By being around the very best in class.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, I just said, hey, I'm gonna figure out this real estate game, and plenty of lessons learned at the beginning as we got started in it, but really, really grateful that that's the course that I committed to. Yeah. And so, the last 15 years of my Vivint career was really just taking as much active income as I can and playing it into passive income investments.
Yeah.
And, a big part of that, though, is knowing exactly what you're trying to accomplish with your investments. Most guys do investments just based on emotion, FOMO, fear, greed, right? It's more of an emotional decision. Yeah. I've always been a pretty calculated guy, very left-brained. And so for me, it was very much more of a calculated, okay, let's figure out the end goal, with intentionality behind it, and then reverse engineer exactly what I want to be building right now. And part of that is when you're out knocking doors. I mean, that's probably one of the hardest ways to earn a dollar.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
And so I was figuring out, okay, if I'm going to work this hard at something, why am I doing this? And in my opinion, I truly believe that real estate is the best way to build true wealth, right? True generational wealth is through real estate. Yeah. And so it's been a fun journey, man. Started out doing townhomes, and I bought 4 condos and townhomes from the auction back in 2010.
That's awesome.
Those appreciated quite a bit. Let's say 200 grand, so they doubled in value. Bought them for 100,000. Yeah. Appreciated 200 grand.
Where was that, here in Utah?
Yeah. Wow. Yep. Salt Lake, Utah County.
It's grown a ton.
And then, in 2014, it was, okay, there's so much equity in these deals. Let's 1031 exchange, which means basically selling it and trading for like-kind property. And there's no taxable event there, right? Yep. And so I 1031 exchanged those into 4 fourplexes, which were at that time $500,000, so you need about $150,000 of down payment. So I literally took one condo I bought for 100 grand, 1031 exchange into a 4plex with no additional cash out of pocket, just because of that equity, right?
Yeah, right.
And so went from 4 doors to 16 doors, and then kept building on, adding more to that. But then fast forward a few years later, those 4plexes became worth about 800 to a million. Yeah. And so then again, it's selling those 1031 exchange into more 4plexes or into a 20plex or a 60plex, and then it's really building a portfolio. So I think I've bought about 25, 26 4plexes, and then went to multifamily on my own. And then from there, the next step was, okay, one thing in my life's always been like, whatever I'm doing, I always want to do a bigger deal than yesterday. Yeah. This is like a philosophy or a guiding principle. Always be doing bigger deals than yesterday. And by doing so, you're going to have more development, personal development, growth. Your network expands. Hopefully the profitability expands. And you just always get that forward progression. And so from there, it was, okay, what's next? And it was syndications, which means you raise capital from, friends and your network to take down bigger, commercial real estate deals. So I did a bunch of those. And the next step from there was, okay, well, what's next? And it was launch a real estate fund. And so that's been what I've been really mainly focused on the last year and a half now. And it's been awesome experience. But with going back to your question on freedom, to me, that's the best way to create true, long-term, consistent, reoccurring passive income. I call it mailbox money, is through real estate.
Well, it's funny you say that, because your mentor tells you, like, the most wealthy people he knows invest in business and real estate. So I dropped out of college after I got cut from the football team, right? I wasn't good enough to stay. So instead, I looked at how much money I was going to spend on college, right? Say $60,000 was roughly what I calculated. And I looked at my professors. I'm like, I don't want to end up like any of them. I don't want to end up like any of them. Like, oh, they're professors that teaching you to be, no. They're there for a reason, right? There's a certain level of frequency and energy and person that you've set yourself in. So I didn't want to be where they're at, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to do Jeremiah University. I'm going to invest $60,000. I give my permission to, even if I take out loans, because I was going to take out loans for college, I'll take out loans to get mentors. And I will fly around the country and I'll spend $60,000 on some mentors. And I went to these masterminds, I went to these things, and I started learning from some of the wealthiest people that I could think of, right? Spending a lot of money on this, and they all said the same thing. And the one person who said it, I actually forgot his name. He wasn't even the mentor, but he said this because he's a constitutionalist. He said the Constitution of the United States was written to benefit the landowner and the business owner. That is the key to success. If you look at the tax code, if you look at how everything's written, the way to grow in this country, the way to grow is to get in businesses and real estate. You will never, ever lose in real estate, because there will never be any more land. There will never be any more land. and we will always need it. So the one way, like you're saying, the one way to secure everything for the rest of your life, true generational wealth, is land. That is the principle of this country, that you can own your own land in this country, not kings, queens, monarchs, or lords or whatever. They own the land and we work it. No. In this country, we the people own the land. And when we own the land, we have the power. People don't understand this when it comes to politics and when it comes to all the stuff we're talking about. Politicians don't have the power, the people do. And when the people have the power, it's because they own the businesses. They own the real estate. Who's the one telling the politicians to do? It's the really wealthy people who had the bigger businesses in real estate who tell the politicians what to do, what things to put in place. Politicians are the puppets. It's the entrepreneurs, it's the business owners, landowners who determine what happens in this country. They have the power. The American spirit is the entrepreneur spirit. It's the same thing. Wanting freedom, wanting to have that, manifest destiny where it's up to me and nobody else. No one dictates the outcome of life. That is what it's all about. And when you're saying real estate, dude, like nothing could be more true. Like if people would just take that principle and run with it. I know there's so many other arguments out there where they're trying to get you to invest in, again, crypto or all these other things. If you just want the one thing that has never lost and will never lose, it's land. It's real estate. We're always going to need a place to live. We're always going to need something. There's never going to be more land. So you're talking about creating true freedom. That's real estate. That's how this country's built, right? So everything you're saying, I love it. And I know my audience loves it because they listen to this. They're saying, damn, but you know what I think is so interesting though, is there's so many young entrepreneurs, like they hear real estate, they know it's good, but there's so many other things that they're like drawn towards.
Yeah.
Right? Like day trading, and like, or flipping couches or hell, like flipping cars. And I'm not saying those are bad, but what I say is that if that's your side gig, if you have these side gig things, well, then you're not going anywhere because you need to either make that your fundamental business and then flow that into real estate, find one really good thing that you're good at and then flow it into these passive income streams like you did. You became really, really good at sales and people, right? You went to Vivint, you built sales teams, you were really good at one thing. That was your business. And then that business produced a lot more passive income. And that now becomes your business that you could just focus on your real estate, on your passive income, right? I wish more people would understand that, especially people listening.
Yeah. So I have so much I want to share on that, man.
Dive in, man.
But
I opened up a whole can of worms.
No, like 10 different things on my mind. Like I want to talk about this one.
Okay.
What I'd mainly say on that one is that, it all comes back to intentionality.
Yeah.
And I always talk about that, but it's reverse engineering. What do you really want in life? Because the reality is most people don't know what they really want in life. I learned this when I was doing one-on-one performance interviews with my sales reps across the country. Yeah. And I'd sit down for 20 minutes with my employees and be like, hey, why are you here? What's your holy cause? What's your purpose? What are your goals? What do you really want out of this long term? And everybody has a knee-jerk reaction like, hey, I want to get a house. I want to pay for a wedding. I want to pay for student loan. I want a sports car. But you dive into it deeper and it gets fuzzy really, really quick, man. And and very few people know what they really are fighting for in life. And so what I found, I said, hey, if I'm going to be doing this job, I want that clarity. But I also, as a leader, want to be able to lead my people and cast that vision with them as well and help them to get more intentionality and purpose in their approach. Because from a selfish perspective, I know they would be more motivated and would perform better and be retained longer with the company if they saw how this opportunity was going to fast track to their end goal they really wanted to, right?
Their long-term goal. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I remember I sat down on a Sunday and I was like, hey, I've been saying I want, financial freedom for a long time, but I'm going to commit to it. And there's a big difference between committing and wanting, right? So, okay, I'm going to commit to financial freedom. Spent 4 hours and reverse engineered the entire process. And it was, okay, so this is, what's my cost of living for my family? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what's my current, passive income? And then how many years am I willing to commit to getting this financial freedom? Mm-hmm. And it's a really simple equation. It's really that. So let's say, as an example, say Jeremiah, your cost of living is $200,000 for your family, right? So that's the first line on a spreadsheet. The next one is, what's my current passive income? Say you have some dividend stock or a townhome, a condo, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Say it's $50,000. Okay, so the difference is your remaining passive income goal. So it's $150,000. Mm-hmm. And then you say, okay, I have 10 years to commit to this. Which, by the way, that's the key. Is again, delayed gratification. It takes time to chase this, but it's a very worthwhile objective, and mission, right? And so, in that scenario, 10 years, you just need to create $15,000 of passive income per year, and you'll achieve true financial freedom. And it's really powerful when you write it down like that and you get that clear on it, because then it's simply saying, okay, so how much capital do I need this year in 2022 to create $15,000 of passive income? And then you just track that, man. And every month I'd go back and I'd look at my spreadsheet and I'd track my progress. And I do want to say that I think that writing down your goals is so powerful. You know, there's a stat that you're 42% more likely to hit your goal if you wrote it down. And actually, my mission president way back in the day said, he used to always say, Dave, a goal that's not written down is a dream, right? Because it's just an idea. It's just it's just a thought. And so writing it down really gives power to it, and it gives accountability to it, and it gives where you can get that increment. You can see the incremental improvements, because there's little tiny improvements as you go down that process, right? And so for me at age 30, when I was going through this process, it was, okay, I need 40 rental properties by age 40 to achieve true financial freedom. And so I committed to that, made a blueprint, and just went to work on it, man. And
well, shit, you're at what? Over 1,000 now.
1,280.
1,200, yeah. It's just growing and growing, man.
Counting. And that's just, you know, ownership in those doors. But the main point there was, so it was like, okay, I need 40 doors by age 40. And just got really clear on it and put a ton of purpose behind that, right? It wasn't just because I want that. You know, it's because I want freedom. I want time freedom. I want quality life for my family. I want to travel the world. I want to be able to, you know, create amazing experiences for my children, the people I care about, my friends, my partners. You know, anyway, I had a long list of reasons there. But the key there, in my opinion, Jeremiah, is that the more purpose you can tie to the money, then the easier the money comes to you. Because, you know, money is currency, and it's really just current. It's currency. It's meant to move. It's not meant to just be stored up and,
that's good,
you know, put in a bank account.
I like that.
You create value by deploying that capital and making it work for you. And so anyway, I hit that goal when I was 36, you know, a few years early. And then I was like, okay, what's the next goal? And, you know, for me, it was, okay, I want to get 1,000 ownership in 1,000 rental properties by age 40, right? So went from 40 to a goal of 1,000.
Definitely did it.
But I was like, hey, you know what? I've got a team. I've got some confidence and some competency here, and I've kind of figured some things out. So why not? And in my opinion, goals should always be, the right goal is something that is realistic, but it scares you and it gets your emotions going, right? And if it doesn't do that, then it's probably you're thinking too small. And so anyway, I committed that 1,000 doors and just reverse engineered the whole process, and was able to hit that, you know, last December when I was 40 years old. And yeah, man, it's just a fun journey. But, you know, people hear that and like, well, that sounds like a lot of doors and like a really tough thing. Again, you know, there's an expression that says, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time, right? But the key is knowing what you really want, because so many people go through life reactive and they're just reacting to emotions and how they feel that day and like what's thrown at them versus really being in the steering wheel and controlling the trajectory of their lives. You know, one last thing on that is a lot of my friends have heard me say this a lot, but you know, we always, a lot of people underestimate what we can do in 1 year. We overestimate what we can do in 1 year and underestimate what we can do in a 5-year period. And so the key though is just getting that clarity, man, getting crystal clear on it, tying purpose to it, intentionality to it, and then going to work.
I like that intentionality. That, see, like, I'm so glad you're talking about that, because when you say the word purpose, right? I've thought about, like, you say the word freedom, like there's nothing I believe in more than freedom. That's something my father, you know, raised me on, is that freedom, that it's up to you and nobody else. And that's what this country's founded on, you know, and we're losing that. We're losing that in this country, right? We're losing that with my generation. You know, they don't want freedom. They would rather trade freedom for this fake idea of security that someone else can, you know, rule their lives better by handling their bills, giving them a certain amount of money coming in, all this stuff.
Their health.
Right? Their health.
Right now.
Oh my gosh. Having someone else watch over your health. Fuck that. You know, like what we're seeing is a press on the freedom. But why, when I look at this, why is freedom something that mankind has always craved? From the beginning of time, freedom has been the goal. I don't care what race you are, what continent you come from. If you look back at it, slaves have died and fought for freedom, right? Men, women, everyone has fought for freedom. They want freedom. Why do we as human beings crave freedom so much? Why is that the number one goal in our lives? Why does that just send a chill up our spine when we talk about freedom? It's because freedom brings purpose. We are purpose-driven beings. Why else would we continue to live? The lion has only one purpose, and that's to hunt, kill, and survive. We as human beings have a different purpose. We don't care about just survival. There's something inside of us that comes from God that's more than survival. It's more than just making it from day to day, right? It's more than just having lots of, I'm probably going to go to nature, like having lots of lionesses or whatever, right? It's more than that. It's purpose driven. And we want purpose. We want to be somebody. We want to do things. We want to help other people. We are purpose driven beings. We have a conscience. We have a soul. There's something about us that is different. And the only way you can find your purpose, the only way you can live up to your purpose and your potential is if you have freedom. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. That growth, that pain, that freedom for you to allow yourself the limits to have no limits, to experience that, to grow, to push for that, to set those goals and go after them and hit those things. There's nothing that brings more joy in life than setting a goal and accomplishing that goal and sacrificing everything you have to achieve it and to become it. We celebrate that. We celebrate our leaders who went after those things, who became somebody, right? That's why I love having people like you on this podcast, because what you've done is nothing short of incredible. People look up to it, but there's a reason behind it. There's something that happened in the background. That's why I always start this podcast, what's your story? Because where did that come from? Well,
I think my belief is that free agency is a God-given right for man. That's something that it's a right.
Yeah.
And so you got to fight for it, man. I think that, the opposite of that is those that are in power want more power, and therefore freedom is actually a threat to power.
Yes.
And so, even look at our school system, not to go down a rabbit hole here, but
go on the rabbit hole, man. Let's do it.
There's no formal education in the public school system about personal finances, right? In my opinion, it's more because, that's not what they want for us, because freedom, having true freedom takes away from being enslaved or have the power that others have over us. And so, that's why I'm so excited about teaching my children financial literacy. It's not, honestly, I don't really care about the net worth or the zeros in the bank account or even about money in general. Money is a tool.
Yeah.
It's a facilitator that helps magnify whatever we're really about, right?
Yes.
People say money's evil. 100% no, but it magnifies what you're about. If you have a lot of vices and you like controlling other people and you like whatever else, then or drugs, whatever else, that's going to be it's going to magnify that, right? But if you're all about, giving back and creating businesses and opportunities and experiences and travel and whatnot, then that's going to magnify that. It's going to facilitate that for you, right? And so to me, it's always fun. People are like, dude, money, the love of money. Anyway, to me, it's about freedom.
Yes.
Money really is just a tool to help create more freedom and enrich the experiences in our lives, right? I always say that, when we look back on our lives, I think at the end of the day, what we're really going to care about, it's the relationships, it's the experiences and the memories that we create, right? It's not about how many doors you own. It's not about how much money you have in the bank account. It's not about any of that stuff. Yeah. Your legacy is the impact you've created in this world, how much you've helped other people, and it's those relationships, man, experiences. Even with real estate, real estate itself is not that sexy. It's just brick and mortar real estate.
Sure. Yeah.
What I've loved, though, is the ability to create experiences and relationships and experiences around real estate, right?
Yep.
It's my partners.
Yeah.
It's you. You came in, you're an investor with us in
I'm
Axia,
a part of it,
right? That's awesome, man. Now we have some common ground where we can create value for each other.
Yeah.
So that's what I've loved about real estate. On the topic of freedom, to kind of wrap that one up, though, is I think that it's not just financial freedom, but it's also time freedom, right? It's the ability to own your own time. And really just approach life the way that you want to. And most people are so focused on paying their weekly, monthly bills and, having enough that they're not able to focus on their purpose, on their passion, on what they really want to be doing to live life with no regrets. That's one of my kind of core values in my life is no regrets. Yep. In fact, at this point at 41 years old, I can honestly say I have no regrets in my life. I have lessons learned. Well, maybe I have one regret, but I lost my mom a few years ago, and it's completely unexpected. 51 years old, and And that was really hard for me because, we never had a chance to really, kind of make amends for some of the stuff from, early on in life.
Yeah.
And so that was tough for me to not, so my one regrets, I wish I would have could just gone, talked through that with her and let her know, hey, I know you did the best you know how to do. And, I love you and I appreciate you and I'm grateful for that. But besides, one of my goals, again, it's just been to have no regrets in life. And I think that, by having more freedom allows me to be able to go on a, Mount Everest excursion for 2 months away from my family.
That's dope.
To be able to travel, every quarter, to be able to go on these golf trips with my buddies, once a quarter, to be able to go and speak on stage and go and pursue things that I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
What's funny though, one last thing I just want to,
I
had this thought.
Yeah.
Like, even though I don't need to be working right now, I'm actually working harder than I ever have in my life right now. But it's projects and opportunities that I'm passionate about, that I want to be doing with the people I want to be doing it with, right? And to me, I've never been more happy and more fulfilled because we're actually creating things. We're creating opportunities for other people. And I've always believed that if you can help enough other people get what they want, you'll always have what you want, right? Zig Ziglar quote. And it's kind of a philosophy to live life by. Even Axia, our real estate fund, the name Axia stands for to create value in Greek. And so it's always about creating value as much as you can. But anyway, man, kind of went off topic with freedom, with health and like all the masks and mandates and vaccines and all that kind of stuff. I mean, my take on that's really simple. It's all about freedom for me, right? So I don't think the vaccine is, purposefully trying to, kill everybody, or they're doing a lot of these things, like these, but to me, it's the approach. It's if it was just educational, like, hey, this is what it is, and this is the threat, and this is the opportunity. Yeah, I think it'd be received so much better than having it being so politicized and mandated. And that's where I have a problem, is where it's mandated. Hey, you have to do this to have your rights and your freedom. To me, that's un-American. And that's what our forefathers fought for, and why we're here today is to protect those type of freedoms, right? And so anyway, I don't know how far I want to go that rabbit hole.
Go for it. Like
that's something that's,
I think, more because we're, we could talk about real estate. We could talk about the different methods of real estate. We could talk about different funds, but at the end of the day, this is probably the most important topic of it, is that freedom that we're talking about, and what life do we want to live? What legacy do we want to be? That quote you see out there of Alpha Influence of be great or be nothing represents that. That if you're not striving to be the best you can be, not only are you failing yourself, you're failing everyone else you could have helped along the way. And because of that, if you do not choose the greatness in your life, you're choosing to be nothing. You're choosing to settle for less than you could be. You're choosing the mediocre life. And if you believe in God and the scriptures, God spits out the lukewarm because you settled. You settled to just take care of you. The average life is the most selfish life you ever live, because you only care about what you can do for you and not the sacrifice you could put in to help how many other people, to provide that value in life, and honestly, to have that kind of message. And in today's world, there will be suffering if we don't speak up about it. There will be suffering if men like you and me do not say this is wrong and we will not stand for it, right? Not even just say like, we will not stand for this. You do not tell us what to do. You do not have the right or the authority to mandate us. We will fire your ass, get you out of the office if you try to mandate this, because you will not impose on our freedom. That is what we believe. That is this country. That's what we're founded on. And we hear over and over, screw your freedom. Message from the media, message from the government, even sometimes they say, screw your freedom. And what do they always say? It's for your security. It's for your health and safety. And I have never, ever in the history of this world studied a tyrant who took over, who didn't rally his people around the idea that I will give you security, I will give you safety if you give me your freedom. Someone who comes along who convinces everyone else that he knows better than they do for their own health, for their own lives, and that if they were to do this, there's a utopian life that he will take care of all of us. That is how Hitler rose to power. That is how every tyrant has ever risen to power, is by some small group of people or even one person saying, I know better than you. And it's up to the people to say, fuck you. No, you don't. And how dare you try to impose that on us? Because you know what? Health and safety, that's up to you. And that's the beauty of it. Yeah, you could really fuck shit up in your life. You could smoke those cigarettes and those ain't good, man. You could go weigh, 600 pounds. That ain't good. But at the end of the day, it's your choice.
Natural consequences.
Natural consequences. Honestly, natural way of living, right? Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, It's your choice on what you do with your health. It's your choice on what you choose to do for your kids. It's no one else's choice on the mandates you can put on us. And I know through our systems that have been created, they want to impose those mandates on the businesses, on the airlines, on schools. That's what I love what you're talking about with schools, because I hate school. I think what school has turned into is an indoctrination camp for the wrong reasons, showing us how to be employees, show us how to be a slave to the dollar. Literally, I believe that and maybe it's not, like intentionally, but at the end of the day, what does school show you? It doesn't teach you how to be free. It doesn't teach you how to, create your own, manage your finances. I do not remember a single lesson I've ever learned that was worth a damn in school about finances. Right? They don't teach you how to create a lifestyle where you can value your time. A friend of mine, Brad Lee, has said this, where he says, if I gave you $10 million today, would you take it? Everyone says, yeah. But then he goes, what if it meant you wouldn't wake up tomorrow? No one ever will say yes to that. Unless you're really dumb, right? No one will say yes to that. Why? Because time is the most valuable thing we have on this planet. And the fact that we're willing to trade our time for dollars, maybe $10, $20, a lunch, whatever it is, shows you how we've been brainwashed and taught to devalue our own life and what we can do and the experiences we can have and who we can become. We've become slaves to the dollar just because no one showed us this. Right? I mean, that's at the end of the day what the system is created. When they're talking about freedom, the mandates through the schools, I'm entirely against. I dropped out of college. I do not want my kids to go to college unless something fixes, and I don't think they will. Right?
So I'm on the same page on that one. So I think that schools in general, it's more about teaching like obedience, right?
Yes.
So like they get their grades, there's a system. If you conform to it and you're obedient, then you can get
sit in your seat. Yeah.
Right? So I'm in the same boat. I actually dropped out. So I was hoping to get my MBA in business, and then I became a regional manager at Vivint, and it was actually back in the day, the owners said, hey, if you want to become a full regional manager, you can't go to school at the same time because of this. And frankly, it was actually a really hard decision for me because I had a goal of finishing that out. Yeah. But in hindsight, man, dude, I don't regret that for a minute. Right. And I will never go back. Yeah. And I learned so much more about real world skills going out and just knocking doors, trying to sell something, right? Mm-hmm. And then going into leadership, which again is the most valuable skill set because everything goes up or down from leadership. Yeah. And so being able to lead people and how to approach that, so valuable. Yeah. And so with my kids right now, I'm still a little bit torn on that because I think if you go into a technical job, if you're an attorney, if you're a doctor, obviously you got to go to college. Right?
I don't think anyone disagrees that they want their doctor to go to the doctor school.
Yeah. Oh, you're a doctor? Cool. What school did you go to? The School of Hard Knocks. I went and knocked doors.
Yeah, I've done a couple surgeries and I learned.
Yeah. But what I think, like for my kids right now, my message to them is, hey, if you want to go and be, let's say, an interior designer, the best way you could approach that is go find the very best interior designer in the country, send her a letter, send her a video and say, hey, I'm going to come on and be a full 1 year internship for you. No cost. Yep. I'll pay for my own everything. Yep. And let me just help shadow you and help you and learn from you. And by doing that, they're going to leave that internship or apprenticeship with the knowledge from the very best person in the country. Yep. They're going to have very little debt, if anything, from that. Yep. It's going to be relevant. It's not going to be out of a textbook that's already 5-10 years outdated. Mm-hmm. And it's just, and the resume is, hey, I worked with this individual, the best in class, right? Yeah. So to me, you learn a lot more that way. And the only thing I'm cautious with my kids when I talk about education and the lack of my, belief they need to go to college is I'm cool with that as long as you maintain a growth mindset and you're always trying to learn and educate yourself. Because we live in the most amazing time, man, where you can learn anything at the tip of your fingertips.
Dude, Google it.
Google anything you want.
I heard a study that in when it regards to business degrees, there's nothing in a business degree that you can't find on YouTube or Google at this point. You just have to be able to search it out yourself. That's it. Like there's nothing you'll learn that's not already out there for free.
I was last year I was out at dinner with Andy Frisell and Ed Milet, and Ed said something that's really powerful. Yeah. And when he said it, it sounded pretty basic, but he goes, Dave, the only difference between who you are today and who you will be 12 months from now is 3 things. It's the people you surround yourself with, the podcasts you listen to, and the books you read. And I'm like, okay, I get that, right? We're the accumulation of the 5 people we spend our time with. Mm-hmm. But the more I've looked back on that comment, I think it's so powerful, man. Really, it's what we intake. It's right. Yeah. It's our mindset. And I feel like our mindset is the number one determinant of our success and our personal growth. You know, that 6 inches of real estate between your ears is by far the most valuable real estate.
Yep.
And anything you can do to increase the ROI or the return on investment by improving, you know, your mindset, it'll pay 10x, 100x.
No, I agree. And now let me pivot to a question here for you, because in regards to your real estate, right? Because we've been talking a lot about freedom and all this stuff. One of the things that people crave is they want to get into real estate. They want to get into these businesses, but they don't have the time. And me, I'm running my business and I preach real estate, and I still don't have the time to vet the deals, to, you know, handle all the loans, to handle everything, to handle construction, whatever it is. I don't have the time for that. Right. So one thing I love in business that is becoming created more and more, especially with the kind of resources we have, is that done for you system, right? That done for you system where, in regards to education, I know we've been discussing education, there's no done for you education. You're going to have to put in the work on that. But when it comes to actual dollars, when it comes to actually putting your money in with something, there is that done for you system that I think is becoming more and more popular. I don't know how you feel about that, because I feel like that's really becoming a big thing. I don't think it was so much before, but I think it's becoming more and more the popular way of going, where you have that done for you system where you can still get into everything, and creates that freedom where you leverage someone else's skill set, someone else's team, their software, whatever they have, something they've already built to create freedom for you, but still be able to dip into the most important things, right? Because not everyone can be a real estate expert. Not everyone can be an expert in crypto. Not everyone can be an expert in maybe even in cars, whatever your business is. There's so many expertise out there, dude. I talked to a guy who's a multi-millionaire. We're talking like maybe $100 million net worth from Texas. And he developed this thing where he injects, stuff into bulls' testicles so it gets them ready for heat. And he's making money off that, right? Like, that's his expertise, right? I don't give a shit about that, but that's his expertise and that's what he's good at. So when it comes to real estate and all this stuff, what you've set up with Axia is huge, because that's that done for you system where people can get into real estate through what you're doing, but they don't have to vet the deals. They don't have to be the real estate expert, which would take years. Seriously, they're basically, if I'm not correct, tell me if I'm wrong, they're able to leverage your failures and where you're at because of what you've learned from those failures and skip that process. The 15 years, you've learned a lot of shit in those 15 years of what to do and what not to do. And someone who wanted to get in real estate, they can either go through that same, trajectory, or they can skip all that and just go right to someone like you. Right?
Yeah, I think the key is when you get started is to make a decision intentionally if you want to be passive or active in your approach, right? And passive means it's mailbox money. You don't literally do anything besides, cut a check and then maybe get your K1 every year, right? Yeah. But there's no other responsibility there. I think most guys want to invest for passive income, especially if they're running sales teams, they're running businesses, they're making good money, and they like where they are with their career. For sure, you should just go on a passive approach here, right? But make sure you're clear from the beginning. Am I passive? Am I active? Mm-hmm. And if it is going to be passive, then, it's just all about cash flow. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's, every month, at least once a month, I'm writing a check. I'm investing in a different cash flow investments where I'm completely passive. Mm-hmm. Even though I'm a real estate professional, I run a real estate fund and, there are other businesses. I don't have the bandwidth to do it all on my own. So I still invest in other people's projects passively just to get those streams of income coming in, right? Mm-hmm. And real quick, on that note, I call it lifestyle investing with passive income. But once you get enough of those streams of income coming in and that mailbox money, and it has enough to pay for your cost of living, what's amazing then is as you get additional streams of income coming in, the additional passive income, you redeploy that back into more, streams of income passively. Yeah, right. And it creates what I kind of like a snowball effect, compound effect, where it just keeps getting bigger and bigger as you redeploy that back into new passive investments. Yeah. And that's something I've never seen in a book, or I've heard other people really explain that approach. But for me, that's been incredible. Yeah. Right? So you start out with maybe trying to get one new passive income stream that year, and then just keep building on that every year. Mm-hmm. And again, it takes discipline, it takes time, but eventually it creates this beautiful machine of cash flow. Yeah. But, going back to your question on basically kind of a built for you type of a model, with Axia, our real estate fund, when I first came up with our investment thesis, it was, okay, how can we create consistent passive income that has a low downside risk, considering that we're 12, 13 years into this amazing housing market, it's not a matter of if, but when there's going to be some tough waters, corrections, some choppy waters, right?
Right.
And so how can we create real value for our investors and a high upside, high yield, while still protecting the downside risk? And so that was my investment thesis going into the fund. And it was, okay, we're just going to buy stabilized, cash flow positive real estate, specifically in multifamily, RV parks, and self-storage, because historically those three asset types have been the most recession resilient in the markets. And so we mix those three together, and we only buy, again, stabilized or close to being stabilized. And then every single asset we acquire, it's value add, meaning that it's the property's mismanaged, it's old, it's, whatever. And so we'll come in and we'll do all the value add improvements, new cabinets, paint, increase experience, add dog parks, pool, hot tubs, play areas for the kids, search engine optimization, social media, all that. And so by doing that, it really insulates the downside risk if the market does turn, because we've added so much sweat equity in improving the asset. Yeah. And so I feel like that's a really smart way of doing it. But, for our investors, one thing that drove me to doing a fund versus a syndications are usually like 5 to 20 partners coming in on a deal. But now with a fund, we can create value for literally hundreds and hundreds of people. This year will be over 1,000 investors in Axia. And so we're creating real value for so many more people. Yeah. And I love that the impact we can have through Axia. But we're, the other part of our motto is experiential investing. And to me, the new modern economy is all about experiences. People want experiences, right? And so in a fund, I've never seen this before, but we've committed to experiential investing, meaning that every single month, the first Thursday of each month, we have one of the top real estate guys in the country coming in, and they'll speak for 45 minutes to our investors, and then a 45-minute Q&A so they can ask any questions they want to. And we also invite all our investors to come on site for our due diligence, for our walkthroughs. We basically just pull back the curtain so you guys can see exactly how we do what we do. And so it's an educational opportunity, right? It's like, the whole idea of, instead of giving a man a fish, teach him how to fish. And so a lot of guys want to learn how to do real estate. And so this is a unique way of creating value by helping to educate. So it's not just about getting an ROI, but it's also about helping teach our partners.
Love it. I love that. Well, Dave, dude, we covered some great stuff, man. If there's one thing you'd want to leave our audience with, what would it be, man?
One thing. Oh man, that's tough.
I know, that's a loaded question.
I would probably say get really clear on what you're really trying to accomplish. I think that's the biggest thing, man. People go through life just kind of meandering and just get super clear on it, man. It takes time. Yeah. And for me personally, I created this thing called lifestyle design, and it's 10 different chapters of my life that I want to be great at. Yeah. Because a lot of guys are really good at one thing. They're really good at their health, or they're really good at business, but they neglect their relationships and their family, right? And so create this lifestyle design in the first chapter. It's my mission statement. So it's my personal mission statement for my life, my core values, my guiding principles, my 5 non-tangibles. Like you mentioned earlier, like one of those is I'll never trade time for money. I'll never put money over relationships. Yeah. Those kind of things. And then chapter 2 is health, and it's business, finances, time, spiritual experiences and relationships. So we got these 10 chapters that I'm really intentional with. And I think just getting clear on the outcome, man. I think, if you know what you really want in life, then your approach is a lot more, you can be more aggressive and bold in your approach because hey, this aligns with my purpose. This aligns with what I want my life to stand for. Yeah. My legacy when I'm no longer here, what are my kids, family, neighbors going to say about my life and my impact? If you know the answer to that now, you can make better decisions. And, I believe that in life where we get to is really just an accumulation of the decisions we made along the way. And so the more high quality decisions we can make, then the higher quality of life we're able to enjoy.
Dude, dude, I love it, man. Everything you said, dude, if people just understand, if they just understood this stuff, everything we covered here, they're it's cliche, but it's life changing. Like this would completely change and restructure how they think about life, So everyone listening to this, I want you guys all to go follow Dave Allred. We're going to link all this in the link in the bio. So make sure you guys have access to him. Dave Allred on Instagram. Also visit his website, axiapartners.com, if you're interested in learning more. Full disclosure, I am also a part of it. It's obviously been incredible, but the best advice I've ever heard was invest in the jockey, not the horse. We all know real estate's a good one, but who you do it with is a big part. And obviously, your name comes with a lot of trust and a lot of, high praise, and I'm one of them, so make sure you guys go check that at Axia Partners. Any other place that people can get in touch with you or learn more about you?
No, that's probably it. Instagram's probably the most used. So
Awesome.
Dave Allred, jump on there.
Awesome. He's doing big things, and make sure you guys watch what he's going to do in the future, because I'm on that bandwagon. I'm excited to see it too.
Let's go, man.
Dude,
Appreciate you.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you, sir.